corruption and collusion are present within the U.S. political realm, and today we will discuss how Goldman Sachs has bribed the U.S. Senate on the TPP with just $195,000. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. I want to get into this information today. I also want to touch on a few other subjects, so stay with me as we first begin with Venezuela. I have been covering this extensively as it's been going on because this is simply a crystal ball for what we will see in the future in many developed nations. Venezuela bondholders, beware. Inflation spiked 100% in April. Inflation in Venezuela may have reached 100% year over year in April, bringing the monthly average inflation to 8.5% for these first 4 months of the year. So imagine that what we have a rate of 100%. Think about the items that you purchase, whether that's your food, your basic essentials, and they are now costing 100% more than they did last year. This would be a massive amount of damage to your pocketbook, and in this case here, they're not making any more money than they were the year before. Sure, the government has increased the average wage, but that doesn't keep up with the rate of inflation, not even close. Anecdotal evidence suggests that some basic consumer goods are very hard to find at regulated prices, but can be found at much higher prices on the street, so the rise in regulated prices may underestimate realized inflation. This is what we're talking about here, that you can raise the minimum wage, you can do whatever you want, but it's never going to keep up with the actual rate of what I call inflation. But what we're talking about here is the cost of goods. Let's look at this. Bolivar plunges in the black market as Venezuelans stash dollars. The largest bill, which is 100 bolivars, is now worth less than a US quarter. Now think about this. The Bolivar fell 25% on the black market last week to 423 per dollar. This is actually the primary official rate being 6.3 to the dollar. So you're looking at a massive disparity right here. These people in this nation here are going to be slaughtered. They already are in such a bad situation, and everything is just getting worse there. We are seeing what could happen within the U.S. if they engage in a hyperinflationary scenario with the Federal Reserve willing to print away all of the debt that they currently have. We look at this from my book, The Money GPS. We're looking at a quote, in fact, from Adam Ferguson's book, When Money Dies. He describes how these post-World War I Germans were scrambling to get out of marks and into any asset in order to maintain their value while the prices of everything were increasing rapidly. Now, you have the same situation that is occurring today, but it's happening in slow motion, and we're simply in the primary stages of that. We need to understand that we're not at the rate that Venezuela is at. But why wait until it gets that bad for the individuals to react? You need to get on that right now. Let's move on to this big article. Most Americans expect the government to protect them. That's according to CIA Director John Brennan. He said that the U.S. Patriot Act, including a provision that allows bulk collection of American cell phone records by the federal government, is an important way of doing that. Yes, they need to collect every single piece of data that you do in order to protect you. They have been saying this for every single thing that they do that is in fact criminal, and they say it's for your own good. It's for your own good. Now, what if this was for our own good? What if all of this collection that's being taken place of all the nations around the world was in fact to protect the public? What if a hacker gets in and steals that information? What if a new government gets put in place and they're not exactly as nice as the current government? Well, then we might have a much different situation. You can't allow laws like this to be put in place. It is simply too dangerous. You can't have the president signing executive orders saying this is the law and so on. You can't do this because of what could happen in the future. Now let's look at the headline article for today. Donations made by Business Coalition for TPP members between January and March 2015. Goldman Sachs definitely in the first place here, but they only donated, and I say only, $200,000 essentially, as compared to everyone else who, Monsanto is in here with only a small donation, couple thousand, and Caterpillar, Walmart, and Intel, and Disney. So even Goldman Sachs at the highest level here, still only giving $200,000, and yet they were able to fast track the TPP in order to get that through, to force feed it into the government. And all this does is basically cause more chaos and more destruction to individual sovereignty. It has nothing to do with giving people a way to do business on the small scale. This is all about the control, and they're doing so very, very well. And now clearly the US government, the politicians, can be bought off for the cheapest prices ever seen. Let's look at this. Iraqi security forces lost 2,300 Humvee armored vehicles when the Islamic State jihadist group overran the northern city of Mosul. In the collapse of Mosul, we lost a lot of weapons. We lost 2,300 Humvees in Mosul alone. They allowed them to walk in. All of this is being done intentionally. And this is what happens when you allow these politicians to basically say, yes, we can go in and we can do whatever we need to. And then you have Leon Panetta saying that we do not need the Congress approval to go into any nation. We will simply go to our coalition, whether that's NATO, the UN, or whoever it might be. They're going to ask them for permission. They are not going to ask the US government. This is what's happening right now. It's falling apart. The government is ceremonial. They are just there to look pretty. They are not doing anything. Look how cheap they can be bought off for something so important like the TPP, which should have been shut down in its infancy. Out of the Financial Times, US dealmaking hit an all-time monthly record, surpassing the previous highs seen during the peak at the dot-com bubble and the zenith of the debt boom that led to the 2008 financial crisis. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being traded hands right now, and this is the mergers and acquisitions that are taking place. We have seen stock buybacks at record highs. The data underline how frenzied U.S. deal-making has become as cheap debt and bullish boardrooms fuel an M&A boom, the size not seen since before the last two equity market crashes. So this should signal to you that something is coming in the near future. We'll have to wait and see when that will occur. Of course, it is expected and it is long overdue. And then we get into this massive disparity which has been occurring. So you have the billions spent on the war. You have all of these hundreds of billions of dollars being spent on mergers and acquisitions, and you have the TPP being pushed through, given these donations, quote unquote donations, I call them bribes, to the politicians in charge. All of the same at the same time, we have this. New York food banks asks state for $16 million as need rises. This is out of the MyFox New York. New York State food banks are asking state leaders for $16 million to address a worsening hunger problem. Later on in the article, they talk about a 20% year-over-year increase over these last few years. Yes, since the financial crisis, they have had this situation of increased poverty, and we are seeing this 20% increase in the amount of people needing food. This is a very, very serious situation that has been occurring. No one is addressing this. All they're doing is getting more money. Who does that come from? It comes from the middle class, and this is why we have this disparity that is being created that I have discussed here in this video. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that very much. I've been working hard on the website. There is so much more to come. I have many different types of videos planned. I'm bringing them out, but but I'd like to bring them out slowly because I do respect that you individuals out here are looking for this type of data, not necessarily beginner information or information about health all the time. I just like to sprinkle that in every so often, keep it fun and interesting, and I hope that you enjoy that. If you found this video informative, I know that you will find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. And you can actually look through the book. If you go over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature, and you can flip through the book yourself and see if you like it. Take care.